Kevin Raposo here with SpeedyPhotographer.com, and in this video I put together the ultimate answer to your simple photography question. Should you use a teleconverter or should you crop your pictures instead? To do this, we're going to analyze over 3,000 individual pictures using a blur detection algorithm developed by researchers at Tsinghua University. We're then going to break down the results into two parts: sharpness and autofocus accuracy. In other words, we're going to compare if your pictures will be sharper or softer with a teleconverter, and we're going to compare if your autofocus will be better or worse with the teleconverter. And throughout this video, I'm going to ask all of you to try guessing which ones are which. So before we jump into the comparison, let me give you a quick 30-second explanation of how this blur detection algorithm actually works. I discovered this algorithm a couple of years ago while I was working on my thesis for my master's degree. Essentially, the algorithm can scan any picture for sharpness to determine if the subject is in focus with a 98% level of accuracy. The sharpness of the picture is then given a rating between 0 and 1. A rating of 0 means that the picture is extremely sharp, and a rating of 1 means that the picture is completely out of focus. In case you think this is impossible, here's a quick example. This picture got a rating of 0.22, this picture got a rating of 0.91, and this picture got a rating of 1. Pretty straightforward, and you can see that it clearly works. The only thing you need to keep in mind is that a mid-range score, like 0.65, does not necessarily mean that the subject is out of focus. For example, this picture was rated at 0.65, but you can see that the subject is clearly sharp and in focus. The reason for this rating is the blurry background makes up a large part of the composition, so the rating ends up being higher. Alright, so now that you understand how this is going to work, we can start by comparing sharpness. I went out with a Canon R6, a Sigma 120 to 300mm f2.8 sports lens, and a Sigma 1.4x teleconverter. I then took 5 identical sets of pictures, with and without the teleconverter. I shot at 300mm without the teleconverter, and I shot at 420mm with the teleconverter. And to ensure the aperture had no influence on image sharpness, I shot all of the pictures at f4, even though I could have gone down to f2.8 when I was shooting without the teleconverter. Once I was back in the editing room, I downscaled the pictures taken with the teleconverter to perfectly match the pictures taken without a teleconverter. I then cropped the pictures taken without a teleconverter to perfectly match the resolution of the pictures taken with a teleconverter. And the final result were 2 identical looking pictures where you could compare the sharpness of each image. So, you ready? Make sure that your video is set to 4K and try to guess which picture is which and which picture is sharper. Alright, be honest, how many did you get right? Let me know in the comment section below. So the results of this test were pretty clear. The blur detection algorithm clearly identified that the pictures taken with the teleconverter were all slightly sharper than the pictures taken without the teleconverter. And when I pixel peeped a few of these pictures for myself, specifically this shot of the sign is a good example, I definitely agree with the results here. You can see that the teleconverter has more edge sharpness when you look closely at the wood, especially in the areas that I'm marking here up on screen. You can also see more detail when you look closely at the speed limit sign. Those octagonal shapes are much more pronounced with the teleconverter, whereas they appear to be blurry without it. And honestly, I was not surprised by these results. If the pictures weren't slightly sharper, I would be saying, what is the point of teleconverters being manufactured at all? But is that difference significant enough to make it worth using it? Only you can answer that question. So we're about halfway through this video so far, and if you're enjoying it, I thought I'd ask you if you'd subscribe to my channel. It would be greatly appreciated. With that said, there is a very important second part to this comparison. We need to look at the autofocus accuracy. This is a big concern for photographers that shoot a lot of moving action, myself included. Most of you will already know that teleconverters can significantly worsen the speed and the autofocus accuracy of your lens. The problem is that you can't easily prove the answer to this question. Photographers usually describe autofocus speed as a feeling. They'll say it feels faster or it feels slower, but that doesn't really quantify the answer or provide us with any solid evidence. So to answer this question, I took the exact same gear that I mentioned mentioned earlier with me to 4 completely different soccer games over the course of a month. I then took all 3,052 raw pictures and I ran them through the blur detection algorithm to quantify focus. And the point of doing this was to average out the test results over thousands of pictures. It is pretty much impossible for anybody to manually shoot the exact same action photos with 2 sets of cameras. The subject is constantly moving, the photographer might make a mistake, or the lenses might respond in a different way. So by analyzing 4 different games and 8 hours worth of photography, my goal here was to eliminate those variables. In other words, if I did a bad job at one point when I was tracking somebody using the teleconverter, the odds are that at some point I also did the exact same thing with the teleconverter. Everything levels out this way. All right, you ready for the results? At all 4 individual games, the pictures taken without the teleconverter were clearly sharper than the pictures taken with the teleconverter. And if you combine all 4 games, the pictures taken without the teleconverter were rated at an average sharpness of 0.51, while the pictures taken with the teleconverter were rated at an average sharpness of 0.6. This is pretty clear evidence that the teleconverter had a negative impact on my autofocus accuracy. I just demonstrated to you guys that a teleconverter is sharper than cropping your pictures, but those examples were all inanimate objects and manually focused. When shooting thousands of action photos in the real world, there's a very different result here. It's pretty clear the teleconverter doesn't do as good of a job at nailing focus. And again, these 4 soccer games were shot in every type of environment. The middle of the afternoon, a community park at night, and even a 24,000-seater stadium. So there is no doubt in my mind that this was as fair of a test as it could have possibly been. But as with any type of research, we always have to acknowledge that there are limitations. I can clearly tell you that there were 4 key factors that should influence how you interpret these results. Number 1, I did not use a prime lens during this experiment. And given that prime lenses use fixed glass and they tend to be sharper, this could have led to some very different results. Number 2, I did not try using a 2x teleconverter during this experiment. Number 3, I did not try this experiment with different camera brands. I used a Sigma lens and a Sigma teleconverter, but the results might have been different with Canon or Nikon or any other brand. And number 4, the fact remains that it is impossible for me as the photographer to perfectly match and shoot identical sets of pictures. Even during the sharpness test, where I sat there for 5 minutes and tried to achieve perfect manual focus, human error will always be a factor. So I hope you found this interesting and valuable in helping you to understand how teleconverters can affect sharpness and autofocus accuracy. If you want to deep dive into other photography subjects and learn how to make money with your hobby, check out Speedy Photographer, the fastest and ultimate online photography school. Inside the course, I break down everything from the different types of lighting to how your website should be designed to how you can maximize revenue and take on more clients. Every video is extremely detailed and to the point, designed to help you learn quickly, and don't just take my word for it. All of you are the ones telling me how much you enjoy the content. Lastly, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more valuable content just like this, and I'll see you in the next video.